On today's episode of the Photo Nerds podcast, Paul G. Johnson is back, but Adam is now missing. Today we discuss why I sold my camper van and the top 3 things you would buy if you won the lottery, photograph related and not.
Well, that's it. Just me and thee.
Absolutely, yeah. Adam's not here this time, and I am, so you got to put with me and Gary.
Is that a good thing or a bad thing?
I think it's a good thing. Yeah,
I just think
it's absolutely amazing because Adam is too big to fit in the camera with the 3 of us. I'm kidding, Adam.
I just feel now like while the cat's away, the mice can play.
I thought it was interesting on WhatsApp when you texted the other day that you said the boss.
Yeah.
Has Adam now become the proverbial boss? I don't know.
Yeah. You just get that feeling, don't you? Yeah. We could just let rip now because he's not here.
Absolutely. I must admit, I've watched the podcast back, and I thought they were excellent. I really did.
Oh,
I thought the banter between the 2 of you and also the subject matter, which hopefully I think we'll touch on a little bit, not too much because you've already done it, but sure. Some of the comments that you made were really, really interesting for me, and it was just a shame I wasn't here to talk about it.
Okay, well...
Should we dive straight in?
We'll touch on some of them, but let's just dive straight in. Let's just do a light-hearted one. Need my glasses for this because I'm old. Every Friday on my Facebook group, I run a theme called a 3-word Friday. There's a clue in there as to what day it is.
Friday.
There's a clue in there as to what the rules are. I basically come up with a subject or a theme, and then people react in 3 words to that theme. It's nothing new. It's something they do on the radio or used to do on the radio. I'm not quite sure, but it's proven to be quite popular for the channel. But it's interesting. This week I've basically put on there, the theme is if money was no object. And the reason why we're starting with this is because you and I actually talked about this during the week as well.
Yeah.
So if money was no object, let me just, in a light-hearted fashion, but there is a bit of a pattern forming here. Which
I've got to say, I'm loving some of the comments.
Which we'll talk about.
Where was it, that one?
Well, I started off mine, because I always start off with the first comment, and I put Hasselblad and motorhome.
Yeah.
So they're the 2 things missing in my life, although I do have a little camper van, sort of.
I love the fact that you say motorhome and not camper van, but I think we'll touch on that in a little while because that was a really interesting conversation that you and Gary had. But I'm trying to find it, and it's strange when you try and look for something then you can't find it. But
so Bob Bramley, he wrote Big Ass Lens.
Yeah.
There's quite a few people that have
you've got to carry it,
glass.
Bob. That's the problem. Is you can get big lens, but then you've got to carry it.
Jumping straight to my favourite, obviously in a light-hearted fashion, Brian Brown, he wrote Easy, Jennifer Aniston. I don't know what the relevance is. What the relevance is with having lots of money and having Jennifer Aniston. I don't know.
Maybe it's his guilty pleasure. But where's Steve's comment that says buy new boobs?
Yeah.
You can have mine.
Deborah wrote, Deborah Curtis, Iceland, Finland, Sweden. Why is it a photograph in Sweden?
It's got beautiful coastlines.
Has it?
Yeah. There was when I was in my YouTube heyday, a guy from Sweden contacted me and said, come over. Right. And so I asked him that question. He says, what is there in Sweden? And he sent me some pictures, some images, and his images were stunning, and they were coastlines were beautiful, and I'm sure it's got lovely countryside as well.
Wow. I mean, that's just a road trip for us.
Yeah.
Now the tunnel is there. That's just a road trip. I fancy that. Finland. So Iceland, Finland, and Sweden. Finland. Yeah. That's why. Can we mention that?
What? Yeah, I don't know.
Can we mention it?
Maybe not.
Right.
Maybe not.
Well, that's
I don't want to get into trouble from the boss.
That's going to come across really well, isn't it?
Yeah, I don't want to get into trouble from the boss. But I'm interested to see a couple of people have said buy a camper van. Now, I've got a confession to make. I've got rid of my camper van.
I was surprised at that. But you didn't really use it much, did you?
No. There were a number of reasons that I got rid of it. big one was when we bought it. I bought it for dual purpose, which was one to ferry my dad about because he was getting older and infirmed, and unfortunately he's passed away. And the other one was to take the kids away.
Right.
And a camper van is absolutely fine, I'd say, for 1 or 2 people. But we've got 2 children, and it did sleep 4. But to use it properly as an instrument for the family, you really need an awning to put on the side of it, which is like a big tent. And then when you've got a big tent on the side, yes, you can drive away and leave the awning, but then it restricts what you can actually use for the camper van for. So really what you're doing is camping, like tent camping, but with a car or van attached to it. And
that's only for family use.
That's for family use.
That's not for you going out shooting sunsets and sunrises, though, is it?
Exactly. The expense of a camper van for just going out and shooting sunrises and sunsets, the outlay of the camper van is huge just for doing that. Agreed. Though. And Adam hit the nail on the head. Now, none of us are small guys, but when you're in that camper van, basically you're in a big van. And it's got, obviously it's got a water supply, and it's got a heater, and it's got a cooker. But the cooker itself is great for heating up rice and making a cup of tea, and the little oven that came with it is great for doing toast, but you're never going to make a 3-course meal in it. So what I found myself doing is most of the time actually buying stuff and bringing it into the van and possibly heating it up and using the cooker and the oven for toast and a cup of tea. The heater was really, really good. But Adam mentioned condensation. I think that'll happen in any van that you sleep overnight in. Mine, yeah, and you just crack the window open. But there are camper vans and there are camper vans. Mine was 2-wheel drive, and the way it had been designed, it had low-profile tyres on it and stuff like that. And great in summer, but when the rain came going around Scotland and any form of snow, then it was horrendous. And I know you can get winter tyres or snow chains, but it defeats the object for me. So I didn't take it out all over winter, purely because I was scared of getting it stuck.
You're too precious.
Yeah, and to outlay that amount of money on something like that, after experiencing it, and that's what I would say. Adam mentioned hiring one. If anybody's thinking of buying a camper van, hire one for a week, because you'll then really come to terms with exactly what the thing does, and you'll either love it or you'll hate it. So there'll be no in between. So yeah, I've sold it. And I bought a 25-year-old Toyota Land Cruiser, which I'll most probably stick a heater in it for night time, and I'll do what you do, and it's 8-seater, roll it down flat and sleep in it. Because what I also found is that because I've got a young family, I wasn't going away for a week at a time. I was going away overnight and then staying possibly overnight and then coming back, and justifying that amount of money sat on the drive. Good news is with camper vans, though, is particularly with VW, is you won't lose any money on it. So even if you did outlay and spend the money, you would find that you could keep it a couple of years as long as you looked after it, and you'll get your money back.
I've got a tale about that. I've got a funny story about that. I've got my introduction to camper vans or motorhomes. Well, it's actually a little bit of an embarrassing tale, but this is how naive I was. Can you remember Phoenix Nights?
Yes.
Phoenix Nights, what a really funny program. And then the offshoot from that Phoenix Nights was the 2 doormen going around the country called Max and Paddy. Yeah. So I loved that program. I rung my brother up and I said, Steve, I've got a great idea. Do you fancy doing a Max and Paddy for a week? He goes, yeah, no problem at all. I said, well, look, I've had this great idea. I'll go on eBay and I'll buy a camper van. I said, I'll get a fairly decent one because I'll probably spend $2,000, right?
Yeah.
Already how many people now are thinking, what an idiot. right, but this is how naive I was. Now, to be fair, it was, I don't know, 8 years ago, maybe 10 years ago, something like that. So I said, I've got this great idea and I don't know why anybody else hasn't thought of it. I'll spend $2,000 on a motorhome. I'll get a fairly decent one, like I said. We'll go around for a week. We'll come back and I'll just sell it again on eBay, and the chances are I'll probably get close to my money back. Yeah. In which case, it's been a fairly cheap week away, or if not, a free week away. So even my brother said, yeah, cracking idea. Well, oh my God, I could not believe I thought there was printing errors all over eBay. Honestly, I went on with my £2,000 thinking I'm going to come away. Okay, well maybe a 7 or 8 year old motorhome. Oh my God! For like $4,000 and $5,000, you're literally picking up a van that you'd have to pay a scrap man a lot of money to remove off your drive if it didn't have a bed in it.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Because a 20-year-old or 25-year-old van is a 20 and 25-year-old van, whether it's got a bed in it or not. But if it hasn't got a bed, it's worth scrap, if at all. You put a bed in it and it's still worth $5,000.
Yeah.
Worse still, if you put those silly little letters on, V and W, it's worth even more.
Yeah, absolutely.
I was absolutely astonished.
Yeah. It's the whole VW thing.
Yeah.
Mate, don't get me wrong, great vans.
Yeah,
but that, at the end of the day, that is what it is. I mean, I've seen a few people that have started converting a smaller VW. Tim Day's one of them, and a guy called Owen John. I always get your name mixed up. It's either John Owen or Owen John. I'm sure it's Owen John. And he's doing a great job. And if I was going to spend my money again, I would do what you've done, which is buy a van like you have, or do what they're doing and buy a van, and if you're at all practical, convert it into an overnighter.
Yeah.
But you mentioned the term motorhome. You said Hasselblad and motorhome. Me and the wife have discussed it, because the other thing about the van was we were going to, when we retire, go off all over Europe in it. I would take the negatives of a motorhome and I would buy a motorhome. Because when we went to buy our awning, the place we bought the awning from had motorhomes in it.
Right.
And a guy was picking his up, and he's really, really excited. He was an ex-copper, and he said, "Come inside and have a look." And that felt awesome. It felt like a house.
Right.
It wasn't huge,
Yeah.
but then you've got the problems of driving it around, and that's the reason I went for a van, not a motorhome. Initially, it was to drive down narrow lanes up where we all drive as landscape photographers is a nightmare. And also, a lot of the car parks have a barrier on the top to stop motorhomes going through, whereas a van will get underneath it. So I can understand why people go for those vans. But if I was going to go and spend a year travelling with my wife, it wouldn't be in a camper van after using one. But I know lots of people that use them.
Yeah, absolutely, yeah. I mean, we hired a motorhome, the wife and I, last year. I think it was in February, just to travel. It's a huge motorhome as well. And we hired one just to travel around Wales.
Yeah.
And quite literally, we travelled around pretty much North Wales and Anglesey, and we didn't really venture any further than that, because obviously it was so nice. But this motorhome we hired was huge. But I must admit, it was just brilliant. It's brilliant because the wife's not really into landscape photography. So when we're driving around, I could just spot something, pull over. And of course, again, I don't want to sound sexist, but she'll get a book, read a book, and then put the kettle on. And wherefore, I'm off doing my thing, come back, and we have a brew, and maybe have something to eat, and we move on. It's absolutely fantastic for that.
And you can do that with a camper van, but then it comes down to logistics, and the logistics with the family. I mean, my wife's really open-minded, but a porta potty, if you've not got your awning, is a logistical nightmare. So then you're looking for campsites if you've got a family, but for using it as a tog wagon to drive all over the country, and if you're on your own, a great piece of kit, but it's an awful lot of money for one guy to use on his own, or with a very understanding partner.
Well, I've got to build this van, so...
and I've got my Land Cruiser, and the only problem with the Land Cruiser is it drinks diesel.
Right.
But it's easy to work on, and the four-wheel drive.
How old is it, did you say?
It's a P-Reg. So it's a 1996.
Oh my God!
And I've changed the injectors on it, and I've changed the glow plugs on it, and it needs its fuel lines changing. But I'll be able to go to the Lake District when everybody else is coming home, and I'll be able to get to the places that I really wanted over the last couple of years to shoot.
Will it go up Cat Bells, will it?
Well, it won't go Cat Bells, but it'll get me to the place which will allow me to walk when hopefully there won't be a lot of people there, and so I can get those conditions that I really want.
Can I ask a personal question?
Yeah.
It's that 25-year-old P-Reg van. I'm laughing, but obviously I shouldn't be, so I apologise, but how much did you pay for that?
£3,000.
£3,000?
Yeah, which is 10 times less. Over 10 times less.
Can you imagine if you had a bed in your house that was 25-year-old?
I know.
You'd be embarrassed. You'd take it to the skip at night in case somebody saw you.
But the Land Cruisers go for silly money. That's cheap. 25-year-old Land Cruiser, £6,000. because they do everything and they're bomb-proof and they're easy to work on. So the only negative is, as I say, they drink fuel. The fuel. And because they're over 20 years old, your tax that you pay is a straight base tax, 250 quid.
Oh, is it?
It's not based on emissions.
So that's cheaper than my builder's van now.
Because yours will be a post 2000, I presume.
Yeah, 210, yeah. I think I'm paying, I don't know, it's about £400 or £500 or something.
Yeah, the other thing we're using it for is as a jalopy, to take the kids out, and because if anybody's got kids, they throw wrappers all over the place and they spill drinks and everything like that. And then we've got two mutts, two dogs, that when I went up to Scotland in the camper van, they're jumping all over it, and I'm thinking, well, I've spent so much money on this, and you're then worried about scratching it. You're worried about hitting bushes. You're worried about hitting potholes. And then I thought, no, I just want something that if I scrape a wall in Cumbria, going to a photo shoot at Bleat Tarn, I'm not worried. Or if the dogs are sick in it, I'm not worried. Or if the kids are throwing stuff around, I'm not worried.
Yeah, I must admit, I'm like that with a van. You tend to throw it around a bit. Because it's a van.
Yeah,
it's not your
pride and joy.
Your pride and joy vehicle at home.
I saw another lad who's a great landscape photographer from Ireland, Nigel Cook, and I saw him in Scotland, and he had a van, and he had his wife, and he had I hope the little cat's still alive, but an old cat that they used to take around with them as well, and their camper van was absolutely spotless. Right, they've got everything organised, awesome, and they've been all over the country and all over Ireland in theirs, and use it perfectly well. So don't get me wrong, they are great tools. It's just got to work for you because it is a lot of money.
No, I totally agree with that. And it's obviously a sought after thing, judging by these three comments, because, like I say, there's so many people on here. Buy a camper van, Derek Warren.
Yeah.
I suppose also because it's either out of, if you want to buy a decent camper van or a new camper van, then it's out of the reach of most of us, and that includes me as well. I can't justify even paying 40 grand for a vehicle, even if I used it twice a week. 40 grand is an awful lot of money out of anybody's pocket.
I think because I'm getting older, because I've always loved my cars, I've come to the same conclusion, and that's one of the other reasons that we're doing. I'm downsizing my other car. Excuse me, my other car as well, because there's a lot of money in a car, which you really can be better spending on something else. But if you won the lottery, buy a camper van. Why not?
Let's go through just a couple of these then before you and I get going. Steve McAlpine, an interesting one. Try old glass.
Yeah.
I'm not sure what the relevance is with that, and if money was no object, because it's not like they're more expensive, is it?
I wonder whether he's talking about try old glass as in old glass, or whether or not he's talking about going back with an older system, such as your larger format cameras, or buying some of that old glass that you pick up on eBay for a couple of £100, which is old Zeiss lenses, which are absolutely awesome. So if he had some spare pocket money, he could buy those and not worry too much whether or not he bought a Duff lens. But I know a lot of people that are doing that, and some of the old lenses are absolutely awesome. They haven't got the facilities like VR and stuff like that than the new ones have, but with adapters you can use them on most cameras.
Sure. Helicopter to locations.
Oh, that would be nice.
That's got to be one of my favourites.
That'd be nice. I mean, I've got my pilot's license for fixed wing, and I've done a couple of 3 hours flying helicopters, and they're absolutely awesome. But yeah, I think if I won the lottery, I'd have a house with a big enough land in the back not to annoy the neighbours, and a helicopter.
I think what I would do then, if I won the lottery, I think that I'd buy a helicopter and pass and get you through all your exams and tests,
and then you
can drop me off.
That would be my dream job. That would be my dream job.
Can you imagine that on a serious note, though? Can you imagine if you had the ability to be flown and dropped off pretty much anywhere? Wow, a game changer.
I know it's something a lot of people do for skiing and stuff like that, heli drops, and I'm sure there are some photographers out there that have taken helicopter trips to get shots, maybe aerial shots. But yeah, wouldn't that be brilliant? Absolutely amazing. What would you buy from, because we've talked camper vans, we've talked helicopters, what would you buy from a photographic point of view? You mentioned Hasselblad.
Yeah.
Which camera would you go for?
I don't really know. There's something, it's like Leica, there's something sexy about that word. Because we could talk Canon, we could talk Nikon all day long, and they're all Sony. They're all brilliant. Don't get me wrong, all of them. But there's just something sexy about that word.
Yeah.
Even if it was proven that the Hasselblad or Leica didn't actually take a better picture than, let's say, for a Nikon D850 or a Canon 5D Mark IV, it doesn't matter. You'd pay the money.
But for the name.
For the name.
Yeah, I think it's like if you won the lottery and you never had one before, it's like the car analogy, isn't it? You'd maybe buy a Ferrari and drive it for 6 months just to say that you've done it.
Yeah.
But Hasselblad and Leica, the thing is with me, I'll only ever research in detail stuff that I know I can afford. And I've never researched Hasselblad and Leica.
Yeah.
But, you know, when you're a kid... Nikon and Canon, because this is when I was a kid, it was prior to Sony and these people coming in, and I had an old Russian Zenit and I had a Praktika, and the Nikon and Canon were the ones that you really wanted, but then as you get older and get into photography, the ones that if money was no object, Hasselblad and Leica are the ones. But I think it would be, for me, I'd go for possibly a Hasselblad. Don't know which one because I've never researched them.
So is that your choice then? Is that what you...
And the only one reason, people will shoot me down, but I like the name.
There's just something sexy about that name, isn't it?
Well, if you go back to the old awesome portrait guys that used to shoot, and what did they have?
No, absolutely,
a blad, and they'd be taking pictures and looking through it and twisting it and taking another picture.
Yeah, I'm even rattling my brains now, trying to think of something else. I want to buy. What do I want to buy? Okay, there might be the odd lens I'd want to buy, but it's not a lens that would cost me £30,000.
No.
It's maybe just a lens or two that I'm missing. Well, I say I'm missing. I'm not missing anything, but I'd like to add to my small collection. But
from a photographic point of view at the moment, there isn't a lot that I would want. Now, possibly from a video production point of view, if money was no object, I would like to hire a couple of guys to come out and carry my camera gear, do my audio for me, so I could produce more professional video.
Somebody's put hire a Sherpa.
Oh, well, that's it, hire a Sherpa,
Hire a Sherpa. Steve Wilson, we're still sticking with the three-word just because it's light-hearted. Steve Wilson actually wrote
the big boob thing.
Brand new boobs. Now, is that for his wife or for his girlfriend? I could be careful how I say this, by the way.
It might be for himself. I don't know, but an interesting one, that, isn't it?
Yeah, let's just do one more. Then I've got a little something else. Okay, enjoy every day. Iceland, Faroe and Lofoten. That's Iceland, I think, isn't it?
It is. I don't know. Is it?
Yeah, Dave Pearce, hire a Sherpa. That's one I mentioned earlier.
Dave Pearce is a brilliant photographer. I love his black and white work.
Mike's photos. More boys' toys. More boys' toys.
Yeah. Whereas you can never have enough boys' toys. What I will say is there's a lot of really nice people that, you know, have said help the homeless and...
Okay, here's I haven't read this. Chris Anderson, what a great one. And this has interested me, actually. Patagonia, India, and this one, Chernobyl.
Funny that, because...
How cool is that?
Patagonia, most probably off the back of what Brandon's doing and Tom's doing, Patagonia. But looks like an awesome place. But is it two things on the head there that are on my bucket list? Number one is India. I think it'd be an absolutely awesome place to go and shoot. And despite the troubles recently, I've been to Sri Lanka in the past, and that's a beautiful, beautiful country, and will be beautiful to shoot. But there's a series on television at the moment called Chernobyl, and it's done by an English production company because all the people in it are English, and it's absolutely brilliant. The actual series shows how close we were to actually making half of the continent or most of the continent of Europe uninhabitable. It was that serious at one point because it almost exploded the other two reactors that didn't go down. But it would be awesome. I'd be scared because I won't want to get radioactive because it's obviously still very hot there.
No, you can visit Chernobyl now.
I'd love to go.
I've seen a couple of programs on TV, where people are actually, they're now paying to go to Chernobyl. They can get a pass to go to Chernobyl and walk around.
Who said that? Who was it? What's his name?
Chris Anderson.
Chris Anderson, that's a great one, because I'd love to go to Chernobyl.
Yeah, Patagonia, India and Chernobyl.
It's like looking at, is it Fukushima that went up in Japan?
Yeah.
What happens and how quickly the wonderful thing of nature takes over human development very quickly. Without you guys coming and cleaning the streets and stuff like that, those plants will take over very quickly.
Yeah, I've seen that in Harrison Lewis.
That's it, you have, yeah. But I love it.
It's the Marie Celeste thing that I really like. Is when I've seen a couple of documentaries where people are going into the schools, and of course the classrooms are still laid out as if literally the class has just been told, right, everybody stand up, let's all meet in the playground.
It's an interesting one, because at the moment climate change is huge, isn't it, on the news, and I've done a lot of research over the years, and even more so recently, about what we're doing to the planet. I mean, there are 200 animals and plants going extinct every day, huge amounts of deforestation, and a lot of the research is saying no matter what we do, it's actually too late, which is an awful scenario, but I think the more we can do, even at a small level, great. But nature will bounce back, even if we're not here.
No, absolutely.
You know, and if the planet decides to scratch its itch and get rid of us human beings, it'd be fascinating for any extraterrestrial to come to this planet in 20,000-30,000 years' time, because there are certain structures that, if we disappear, will last hundreds of thousands of years, like the Hoover Dam, for example. It will still be there in tens of thousands of years. I find it fascinating. Human beings have had great many positives, but unfortunately things are changing.
Let's just do one more then before we change the subject. And this is just an interesting one. Again, it's the first time I've seen these, because I haven't had a chance to catch up.
I think for anybody that's thinking, well, you're not talking much about photography, these guys who are on Gary's Facebook page are all massive keen photographers, aren't they?
Absolutely, yeah. And of course, these answers are relative to photography.
Of course they are.
Because obviously these are just ordinary guys that are giving you their interpretations of what they were doing if money was no object.
Yeah.
Now, there's a good one here by Dave Gilbert, which is... When I read these three out, it might not mean anything to you, but it means quite a bit to me, actually. And it could be quite interesting. One says, retire to Tenerife.
Right.
Now, the reason why I'm saying it's interesting to me is because when the kids were growing up, we used to holiday at Tenerife all the time. And I can always remember how fantastic the coastline was. Forget Tenerife as a place with people and partying and holidays. The coastline at Tenerife was fantastic. It's not hideously expensive to get there, but nobody ever goes there and vlogs. I don't think I've ever seen a vlog from Tenerife. Couldn't that be a door opened?
Absolutely, especially if you like Tenerife.
Well, obviously, yeah. If you like your beer and you're partying, like Ibiza. I bet Ibiza, for instance, the coastline around Ibiza, as a landscape photography, would be absolutely out of this world.
Yeah.
I
think that's a really interesting thing that you've hit upon, because a lot of the comments on there are talking about Iceland, and they're talking about Scandinavian countries and various others. But isn't there so much more countryside out there?
Absolutely.
I mean, I know, for example, like your top traditional landscape togs like Charlie and Joe have been to Italy and the Tuscan Hills as well, and shot beautiful landscapes, more of your intimate landscapes, even though they're far-reaching landscapes. They feel a little bit more intimate to me. And I just think, I think to myself, how many places in France would be awesome to shoot from a landscape point of view, or Belgium or Luxembourg or Germany. I mean, I've had a few comments from German people, not German people who live in Germany, say there's not a lot to shoot, but I mean, if you look at Austria, for example, you know, so a lot of people are going to the Alps to shoot, but it seems Switzerland seems to be a good go-to, because it's a good hub, is Geneva. But an Austrian vlog or an Italian vlog would be brilliant, or a Sicilian vlog.
I've got a question then. Let's put this out to the viewers and the listeners. So in podcast land.
Yeah. And YouTube land.
And YouTube land.
Yeah.
What they would do if money was no object. Not in 3 words, didn't really matter.
Yeah.
We're just generally asking, because I do find it very difficult to answer that question.
Yeah.
But I'm sounding a bit conceited and arrogant now, almost as if I've got everything, and I haven't.
Yeah. You've got a wonderful family and a job that you love, and other than that, I think that's all we're striving for.
I'm just talking about photography equipment. That's all.
Yeah.
Because the first thing on my mind, obviously, is we're talking photography here, aren't we?
Of course.
No. So the question is then, you guys out there, leave leave a comment below.
Yeah.
Or wherever you leave a comment in podcast world, podcast land.
I think you've hit on a big one there, because I've looked recently on other ways that people can interact, and I just love this podcast and this YouTube channel to be the audience of the people who watch us or listen to us, to be in the room with us.
Sure.
And so I love reading through the comments and the interaction and having interaction with them, because I think if this channel's going to succeed, then getting as much interaction as possible with firing questions at us and stuff that they want to talk to and giving us their views is going to be brilliant. I don't know what you think.
No, absolutely, it's the way forward.
Yeah.
We just want that interaction, but people also still have to understand is their views are their views and our views are our views.
Yeah.
I'm always first to say it. My view is my view, whether it's right or not, or whether you agree with my view or disagree with me, it's still only my view.
Of course.
We're all entitled to our views, rightly or wrongly.
Absolutely, I agree. I think
some people just take it really to heart, don't they?
I think people do in general when they love something.
Yeah.
Whether or not it's a mirrorless camera or whether or not it's a Ferrari or whatever, it's their baby. And
sure.
But people will, with the greatest will in the world, if you're saying that you don't like something, they're going to take it personally. I think we're all like that. It's human nature. But so you covered what you'd buy if you had
money was no object.
If money was no object. I think I've covered it at least a little bit.
Or if we won the lottery.
Absolutely. But I just wanted to touch on something, because we're going to wrap this up in a little while, on something that you and Adam mentioned, which is a passion of mine, is black and white or monochrome.
Sure.
When I started back in the day, first of all, I had my little old Zenit camera, which I keep mentioning, which was all I could afford, and I'd just put colour film in it and I'd take pictures, and that's how I started. Then 17, 18, had a break from photography because there was more interesting things to do at 17 or 18, and then got back into it again in my early 20s when I went to uni, and I bought a darkroom setup, cheap, off free ads, because they didn't have Facebook stores in this day, but they didn't have eBay, and bought this.
Didn't have post offices then, did they?
No, they didn't. When I were allowed,
in the day.
when I were allowed, I had to walk 15 miles to school and 15 miles back, carrying a lump of coal on my back. But no, so I ordered this stuff from an old gentleman, and it cost me about 70 or 80 quid, and it was a whole darkroom setup. But it was black and white because I couldn't afford to spend money on the colour setup, and also it's a more complicated process. So a lot of my shooting when I was younger was black and white film. And I'll be honest with you, I've never vlogged doing black and white because I got a feeling that it's not as popular with the majority of people as, for example, colour is. And I found your comments really interesting. It's also encouraged me to do possibly a vlog or two on black and white, because it is my favourite go-to. So somebody put a comment on the podcast and they said, black and white's great if you don't know how to use white balance.
Oh, really?
Yeah, it made me laugh. But don't quite understand where that's coming from. But it's a comment, isn't it? All comments are good. But yeah, there seems to be this thought in people's heads that people think that black and white photography is easier than colour photography, or it can get you out of a jam if your colour image don't look good. Look what it looks like in black and white. And I'm not going to lie, I've taken a colour image and thought it looks rubbish in colour, so let's stick it in black and white and see what it looks like. But when I go out and shoot, I've either got a colour head on, Gary, or I've got a black and white head on. So I'll either go out and I'll shoot colour, or I'll be thinking to myself, right, this is going to be a black and white shot. And I've mentioned it on my vlogs, and I've said when I've shot, because the majority of them have been coloured, but I've said the odd time I'm going to shoot, this is a black and white shot. What I've never done is I've never changed the camera settings, so I see it in black and white on the viewfinder at the back, not the viewfinder, the screen on the back, because I always have had, because we never had that facility with film, I've always had it in my eye what I'm looking for and whether or not it would work as a black and white shot. So what I did is, after listening to your podcast, I went out with my camera and set it to black and white.
Right, okay.
And it's fascinating how, I think, for people that don't normally shoot black and white, how much more quickly it will get them into that mindset if they did that. Because it showed me straight away on the back of the screen whether or not the shot would work. So I did a little bit of digging, and I looked at an article that was talking about it, because a lot of people will say, no, you never turn it into black and white. I've read comments like that anyway. I'm sure other people will say, well, no, they do it all the time. And I've never done it, because I shoot from old-fashioned days, dinosaur days. But it really does help, and just gives you the mood as to how the shot would look, and also whether or not, because black and white, it's all about contrast, isn't it?
Sure.
It's all about your darks and your lights, because you've got nothing else to play with, and you'll immediately see whether or not it's working. And another really good thing it works with, especially if you've not got a histogram, is it'll also tell you and teach you about exposure as well, because you'll see where, for example, a sky might not look particularly blown out in your eye when you're shooting in colour.
Sure.
But when it's in black and white and all you can see is a bright white sky with no definition in it at all on the back of the screen, it just gives you that little bit more information. So I think I'd encourage people.
You still record the actual image in colour, though, because obviously it's a raw file.
Of course. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, to be honest, if I shoot street, everything is in black and white. Yeah. So I don't worry about colours. And the only thing that would ever change for me is if I saw, let's say, for instance, a shop window and everything was in white, but there was a red plant in there, then instantly, my mind would instantly go to colour. Mm. But like you said, with black and white, it's all about contrast. And then with street photography, it's all about mating things or opposites, lines, contrast. When you get a colour that jumps out at you, now instantly I'm thinking, okay, that's brilliant. This is almost like a white palette with a red blob of paint on there. Now I need something else that's red to complement it, or an opposite colour, if you understand what I mean. So then my mind instantly, for the first time shooted during that day, then turns to colour, because my mind is set to black and white all day, if that makes sense.
Absolutely, I get what you're getting, but that goes back to that cop-out thing. That I might be wrong, and please comment if you think I am. I'm sure you won't be shy in commenting, but but it does seem to me that the thought is, well, you get a black and white if you can't get a good shot in colour. And I think it makes you think far more taking a black and white image than it does a colour image, because the way our brain works, if there's lovely colours within the image, and there's blues and there's reds and there's greens, it looks pretty. But you lose that when you're just shooting in variation of shades.
It becomes an artistic picture, and not just a picture in black and white.
And I think it teaches you lights and darks, which will then you can transpose into your colour photography. Yeah, because all photography is, at the end of the day, is capturing light, isn't it?
I don't think Instagram works very well for black and white.
No.
Every time I post a picture to Instagram, my Instagram account isn't too bad. I do get a few likes, should I say, but I always get a lot less likes, no matter how good the picture is, if it's in black and white.
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely, and that's what I'm saying. I think it's that mindset at the moment, because Instagram isn't really set up for landscape photography either, is it? It's getting better. But it's because it's so popular, it's become very popular as a portal for people to show off your work. Whereas I think you and Adam mentioned about the drop off with things like Flickr, which used to be really good for positive critique. I think Adam or yourself was saying, but it's where. If you want to showcase your work, Instagram might not be the best place in the world to do it, to show it exactly.
Sure.
I'm sounding like it's not a good place to put your work on. Of course it is, because you get so much coverage. But what I'm saying is if your black and white image, as you say, is going to look tons better in a frame on a wall.
Yeah.
And I've got no problem with people shooting colour. And I've got no problem with people shooting black and white. I think there are genres, but I just think it's A, a great learning tool, but B, some of the images you can get are absolutely gorgeous.
No, totally agree.
So I'm really glad that you gave me time to talk about that, because it is. I'd say 80% of the stuff on my hard drive pre-vlogging days, and I only really started posting to social media when I started vlogging, is black and white stuff. And I'd say that 90% of the stuff, if I'm going to put it on my wall, or 99%, will be black and white.
Having said that, though, it's no big secret, but lots of times when you have white balance issues as a wedding photographer, for example, now bear in mind, time is money. You know, you spend all day photographing a wedding, that's another day post-processing that work. If you're dithering around for an hour or so on one picture trying to get your white balance right, or removing, certain hues and color casts on an image, you'll just never succeed in this industry. Or you've got to charge £30,000 every time you shoot a wedding if it's going to take you 2 weeks to post-process that work. So the simple solution in a lot of circumstances there is simply to change it to black and white.
So that's the comment that chap was making.
That's probably the comment, Yeah, so he's right and wrong, because at the end of the day, you can have pictures that you can never fix or fix to a satisfactory state. Wherefore, landscape photography is all about time. When you come home and post-process your images, I mean, I'm worse than most people. I put vlogs out, and I get told all the time, Gary, less is more, for heaven's sake. You're putting 15 and 20 pictures out on a vlog. Most people will do a vlog and put 2 pictures out.
Yes.
But that's just me.
Yeah.
Now, you could spend a lot of time post-processing 1 or 2 pictures.
Yes.
But when you've got hundreds to post-process and a time to do it in, you've got to react quickly. So the comment I made there was, more often than not, if you're in poor lighting conditions, whether there's colour casts coming from silly orange walls and green walls,
I found that really interesting.
in a civil ceremony, which you get on people's skins, then it's much easier just to convert them to black and white.
Maybe that's where that has come from then.
Possibly.
As regards
I haven't read that comment,
black and white. No, not just the comment, because that comment now makes perfect sense. Because I've never shot weddings and I've never been a portrait photographer, for example. All my 99.9% of my images are landscapes. But the fact that in certain circumstances you can get maybe a little bit of leeway with a black and white image compared to the colour image is most probably where this has come from, and has maybe transposed a little bit into landscape photography. But question I'm going to ask you, and you've maybe just answered it with what you said, is if you're in a landscape photography situation where you are have the time and you can ensure that everything looks right in camera, then I don't see what shooting black and white will give you, as in a cop-out. So you're not going to, because you've got the time.
No, there's no such thing as a cop-out in landscape photography when it comes to black and white. It's just you personally. You personally have decided whether you like that image in black and white or whether you prefer it in colour. And really, that's how photography should be, unless it's a business. Unless you're working for a client or working to a brief, at the end of the day, there's a reason why you spend lots of money on that camera, a reason why you spend lots of money on your lenses, and there's a reason why you set your alarm for silly o'clock in the morning to go off and photograph it, and it should always be for you.
Absolutely, I agree. And the reason why you get up and troggle off in a 25-year-old 4x4 and rough it in the back.
But if there are any especially wedding photographers out there that encompass the same issues that I've mentioned there, then leave a comment.
Yeah, and as I say, my comments are coming from a landscape photography genre background, so I don't want to pee anybody off that's portrait photographers or wedding photographers that do think that using black and white is to sometimes be the easy way out. I'm just saying what I personally prefer, and everything is our views. Okay. I think that was awesome.
Awesome. I think we should wrap it up there, Paul.
Yeah, we're just going to make this one a little bit shorter, aren't we?
Not much.
Yeah, not much. And we'll...
I've got an idea, by the way.
Yes.
I've got an idea.
Well,
because the boss is away.
Yes.
What we should do is just record a podcast for 10 minutes.
Yes.
That's it. Stop it at 10 minutes and say ta to everybody after 10 minutes.
Yeah.
But then make eight of them.
Yes.
So over the next 8 and 9 weeks, like Adam doesn't get a say.
That'd be perfect, wouldn't it? That'd be perfect. We love you, Adam.
Yeah, we love you. Right, let's wrap that up. Any
right.
comments, please leave them below or whatever you leave them in podcast world, and we'll see you on the next one.
Absolutely. See you soon.